Comfort is often the first thing we're willing to give up, like taking a long flight for a vacation or waking up early for a workout. But don't let style be the reason you aren't comfy. Mack Weldon's Ace Collection makes it effortless to look put together while feeling truly comfortable. Inspired by their best-selling sweatpants, the Ace Collection combines everyday comfort with long-lasting and confident looks. Upgrade your collection for the new year with bomber jackets, half-zips, sweats, crew necks, and much more. Get comfortable anywhere with Mack Weldon's Ace Collection. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off your first order of $125 or more with promo code MACK25. That's MackWeldon.com. Promo code MACK25.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion. I'm your host, Stephen Wallis. 2026 is set to be a major year for women's cricket, with the ICC Women's T20 World Cup taking place in England across June and July. Over 2026, I'll be bringing you a series of episodes focusing on the stories and the players that will shape the tournament. In this episode, I'm joined by Rosa Simkin from Rosa Talks Ball to look ahead to the World Cup, discussing the tournament layout, the competing teams, and England's prospects on home soil. Hello, Rosa. Welcome back. A Happy New Year to you. Can I say a Happy New Year on the 9th of January?
I'd say that's acceptable, yeah. Hello to you too. And I'm going to say it back. Happy New Year.
Thank you very much. On this podcast, we're going to talk briefly about the ICC Women's T20 World Cup. It's the 10th, which is due to be held in England between the 12th of June and the 5th of July. The first question I wanted to ask you, though, is how important is the event to women's cricket in England?
I mean, it's absolutely massive, you know. I think with the relaunch of Project Darwin last year, we really have to capitalise on the increased media attention. I mean, hosting the tournament brings almost unmatched visibility. You're going to have larger crowds, there's going to be more media, and there's going to be even more opportunities than ever to inspire more and more fans and also new young players. And as I say with Project Darwin, the World Cup is arriving at a transitional time. And especially from an England squad point of view, there's been a lot of disappointment, and it gives a real opportunity for those players to take a home World Cup with both hands and make their mark on it, make their mark on women's cricket in England. I mean, I raised the Red Roses effect, I raised the Lionesses effect. Winning a tournament on home soil would be massive, but even hosting it gives us so many opportunities to bring in new interest.
We did win the first T20 Women's World Cup, which was back in 2009, but a lot has changed since then.
An awful lot has changed since then. But it's pretty much that Catherine Sciver-Brunt played in that World Cup and has only recently retired. But yeah, a lot has changed, especially regarding the attitude of women in sport. I think in the last couple of years, especially thanks to the Lionesses and them winning that home Euros, it's opened everyone's eyes to thinking, this is entertaining, this is worth investing in, and we need cricket to have that kind of moment.
Because it's not just important to cricket, but it's important to women's sport in this country.
100%. I think watching the Lionesses do well, for a lot of people, made them interested in other sports like rugby. A lot of the cricket teams formed partnerships with the women's football teams to try and get people going to their games. You know, women's sport is very interconnected in the fan base and the way in which the clubs and the players behave, and they do help each other out. So it would be massive for women's sport as a whole.
Are you confident we can put on a good show? I think it's 24 days of action, although I think there's some warm-up matches also before the tournament starts on the 12th of June.
I'd really like to think so. I think the ECB have done nothing but invest in the women's domestic setup over here over the last few years. They've put a lot of money behind women's cricket, whether through the 100, through the development of the regional system, or through Project Darwin, and we have to capitalise on that. It's very rare in women's cricket to have the backing that the ECB do give these players. But simultaneously, a home World Cup does increase pressure. And we know historically that England as a squad struggle under pressure. But if they can evolve in response to those pressures, the tournament could be a defining moment and create a legacy that really outlasts the competition itself.
I'm pretty sure the event will be on Sky Telly. Are the highlights going to be on BBC?
I don't think that has been confirmed yet, but I'm pretty sure they will be.
The tournament will be boosted, obviously, if England do well, and also if Scotland and Ireland qualify from the global qualifiers.
It would be awesome if both teams could qualify. I think for the last few years, they've kind of been competing with one another. And I think both nations have struggled recently from a financial point of view, and the visibility of a World Cup so close to home, you'd like to think would really help boost their sponsorship opportunities, etc. And yeah, I'd love to have both Scotland and Ireland involved. That is for sure.
They're both soon going to be competing in the global qualifiers in Nepal. What do you think their chances are of being one of the 4 qualifiers?
I'd say pretty high. Scotland especially. I think the majority of that Scottish squad now play in women's domestic cricket in England, and I think that's really healthy. I think it's really important to have that relationship with the home nations. Really love to see Ireland be able to get back involved, and the rules change slightly so that their players can develop, because good domestic cricket is vital to high quality international cricket. And as we talk about finances, Scotland and Ireland don't have the infrastructure to host elaborate domestic leagues. But yeah, I'd say their chances are pretty good.
For listeners, there's 2 groups. In Group A, we've got Bangladesh, Ireland, Papua New Guinea, Namibia, and the USA. And in Group B, Scotland, Thailand, Zimbabwe, the Netherlands, and Nepal. Ireland ranked 9 in the world.
Yeah, Ireland went on quite the rise a few years ago, that is for sure, and were quite consistently involved in higher tournaments, but they've had a little bit of a drop. I'd say in part because of international retirements, but they're quite promisingly on the rise again. Recent series in South Africa, there was some real quality, and we know South Africa are a top team. They keep making World Cup semi-finals and finals. So if that team can come together, I'm sure the world's at their oyster.
So who would be your 4 qualifiers to reach the finals in England?
Ireland and Scotland, straight up. And then I'd say the Netherlands. I think they've got a very good squad now. Again, a lot of players playing in our domestic stuff. And I think you've got to back Bangladesh. They've got a lot of experience at international tournaments. And you'd be surprised if they didn't qualify out of those 10. But look, the thing with T20 cricket is anything can happen. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a wild card in there.
Yeah, Ireland ranked 9, Bangladesh 10, Scotland 11, and Thailand ranked 12.
Yeah, I mean, Thailand are another one who really used to be at the higher levels of women's cricket, but have had a bit of a drop off. So I would love for them to qualify. They always bring the vibes when they qualify for tournaments, and I think it would be great if we could have some different teams. I think that also raises the profile of the game, because playing against top players naturally improves cricket all round.
Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Rosa, Thailand qualified for a previous T20 World Cup.
They did, yeah. And they qualified for the one in Australia literally just before COVID. Um, and they did show promise. And then they had a bit of a drop off after COVID. So hopefully they can get back to that level.
12 teams in the World Cup, 12 again in 2028, but there's going to be 16 in 2030. That's got to be the right way for the T20 game.
100%. I mean, T20 cricket, I think, is the best and easiest way to grow the game. It's the most affordable for teams, and the more teams we have playing at the highest level, just the better cricket is. Um, and I'm really glad to see that that move has been made. I think it's also being made at the right time. I think if they turned around and said that the World Cup this year had 16 teams, it'd be too soon. But I think 2030 is a realistic target to ensure you're still maintaining competitive cricket, but also ensure you're giving some of the smaller nations more opportunities.
Turning to the World Cup in England, which is going to start on the 12th of June. England's first match is at Edgbaston against Sri Lanka. Will you be going to that match?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say I will be hopefully in a media capacity. But I will definitely be there either way. As you know, I love Edgbaston, and I'm never going to say no to world cricket there.
Talking of venues, the World Cup in England has been staged at Old Trafford, Southampton, Leeds, Bristol, Lords, and the Oval. No Trent Bridge and no small grounds with some of the associate nations playing. Is that a wrong move?
I found Trent Bridge to be surprising, given the profile they've given women's cricket in recent years. They hosted the Ashes Test. They hosted India in a T20 last year, and I love Trent Bridge personally. It's a great ground. But I guess if you're thinking about the geography of these grounds, it becomes difficult to have so many centralized ones. Um, I am surprised that there aren't more smaller grounds being used. Also, because I think it's massive for those venues. Um, Places like your Leicesters and it'd be really good to see high quality cricket being played at those grounds. I think the one bugbear from me, which has really frustrated me, is the World Cup was branded as the England and Wales World Cup, yet there are no games in Wales, which is rather flabbergasting. And I still don't quite understand the reasoning behind that one, but hey.
Because historically, England have played a lot of matches at grounds like Derby, Leicester, Hove. Surely they would have been better type grounds for two associate teams playing against each other.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. Um, I think it's also a really good way to get the cricket to more people. I think even though they have tried to spread it out, it is quite congested. I mean, I raised the fact that all of the semi-finals and final are in London. It's not something I think you'd see in the Men's World Cup. I think they'd be more spread out, and I think it's really important to reach as many people and as many communities and as many clubs as possible.
I'd certainly agree there. Speaking here from the east of England, my nearest ground is probably Lords, which does seem a bit. It's not really spreading the gospel of the game across England. I presume the ECB would put across that it's a cost issue, but I do think when you have a global event, it's nice to spread the game around the country.
I also think when you've got smaller teams playing each other, you've got to be realistic that you're probably not going to sell out in Edgbaston. We're probably going to struggle to sell out your Australians and your Indians playing each other. Um, and surely it costs more to open and operate those grounds on a low capacity than it does to give these smaller grounds these opportunities. And it worked so effectively in previous World Cups, including the Men's World Cup. They played games at smaller grounds. And it would would have been nice to see some more diversity in where the cricket's being played, that's for sure.
Whereas it would be a big event if two associate nations were playing at Chelmsford or Hove or Leicester or Derby.
You're more likely to get in a big crowd because apart from anything else, those county fans are probably going to be really excited that their ground's hosting World Cup cricket. So you're probably going to have people going out who don't necessarily support either team, but just want to support the occasion. And I think that's an opportunity that we should have capitalised on. And on the other hand, I understand why the UCB want to send a message of we're growing women's cricket by playing at larger grounds. But it's about maintaining that balance and not getting ahead of ourselves too quickly.
12 teams then, 33 matches, two groups. Group A is Australia, India, Pakistan, South Africa, and two qualifiers. Group B, England, New Zealand, Sri Lanka, West Indies, and two qualifiers. Are England in the easier group?
I mean, I'm not quite sure how we've managed to avoid Australia and India yet again. It's becoming a bit of a skill set of ours in World Cups. But you know what? I think we've got to learn from the last T20 World Cup that no group is easy. I mean, we got knocked out by the West Indies in the group stage when we were avoiding both Australia and India last time out. And everyone said, oh, they'll qualify, they'll be fine. And then we didn't. I think as the game develops, teams are catching up and it's becoming increasingly difficult to face them. But I'd also say England are at an advantage that they're playing New Zealand in a lot of games before the World Cup. So they will probably have got their head around them. So it makes a surprise result less likely. But look, I will say they have done very well to avoid Australia and India. And South Africa.
Do you think there'll be any upsets? And do you think some of these associate nations could beat larger nations in a T20 format?
I reckon they could, especially if you've got Scotland and Ireland in the World Cup. Their players will be used to the conditions, and you can see them really upsetting a side. And also, as I said previously, T20 cricket is the most likely area of the game for an upset. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few shock results during the World Cup. Hopefully not involving England, though.
Let's hope so. England playing all their matches at 6:30, and yet the final is at 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's been a bit surprising, the scheduling from that point of view. But I also guess that the final wants to be a big occasion on a Sunday. So it makes sense it's earlier. But with two games on basically every day during the World Cup, I guess it's how we fit it all in the time we've got.
As you said, England are going to be playing build-up matches against New Zealand and against India before the competition starts.
We seem to be playing a lot of cricket against India these days. We played them this summer, and look, I'm not complaining. They absolutely annihilated us this summer. And it's important for the side to be playing tough cricket before a World Cup. I think one of our issues in previous times was that we weren't playing teams of a high enough quality in our warm-up games, and then either weren't put under enough pressure or felt too confident to then execute on the highest stage. New Zealand as well, a really exciting up-and-coming team. And it'll be interesting to see how England go against both of them. Everyone will be hoping that there's a lot more victories than this summer. That's for sure.
We mustn't forget New Zealand are the holders of the competition.
They are the holders of the competition. And it was unbelievable scenes when they won it last time out. And I'd love to see them do well again. I think it's a really likeable team. They've got some absolute greats of the game in Susie Bates and Sophie Devine, who I hope are both playing in that tournament. And then you've also got your Amelia Kerrs coming through. And they're one to definitely watch for the future. And the now, I guess, with that recent win, it was definitely one that I don't think was on anyone's bingo cards before that tournament, that's for sure.
Certainly not. There's not been many winners of this competition, has there? Australia have won it 6 times, England once, New Zealand once, and the West Indies once.
There's a theme with Australia in world cricket, isn't there? And it's one that is, I'd say, being dismantled. I mean, the last two World Cups, Australia haven't made the final. And that's exciting for the game because you want more teams competing at a top level and you want teams like Australia to feel under pressure. But it'd be really nice to have some more teams on that trophy. Maybe even an absolute shock like a Pakistan. It would be great for the game.
You are listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallis. Don't forget, you can find this episode and our archive of nearly 400 episodes on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, or on our YouTube channel. As for England, are you expecting many changes in their squad team?
I am actually. I think when Lottie came in after that Ashes and the turnaround was so small, it wasn't reasonable for her to completely shake up that team and pull people out. And then you've got a World Cup and you don't want to unsettle the team again. But Lottie is a coach who works on merit very strongly. She believes that if you're performing at a county level, you should be playing international cricket. And it's a motto she's believed since she was captain of that team. And as someone who has been so heavily involved in the domestic game, it's one of the reasons why she made those England players play county cricket. If players aren't performing in an England shirt or in a county shirt, I don't think they'll make that World Cup squad. Even if they're your Danny White-Hodges and your Sophie Ecclestons, I think it might be a bit brutal. I mean, we know England are going out and doing an inter-squad tournament in March. They're taking two squads, their current century contracted players and a group of youngsters to play against each other to see how the youngsters cope against the England players. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those youngsters made their way in. I raised people like Davina Perrin, who had a stellar year. I also raised people like Karis Pavley, who has been in England's plans for a while, but injury has gotten away. I think it will be a lot more of a different squad than people initially anticipate.
So you're expecting some of these young players like Freya Kemp she was playing in the Women's Big Bash when I was out in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I think any young player who performs, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in. It's a real opportunity to reshape that team. And there are players in that team who have been holding on a little bit. And I even think it's just the pressure of having youngsters in the dressing room and thinking, oh, my place is under pressure here. I need to perform. Because if you're then not performing, are you going to perform in a home World Cup in front of thousands of people on TV? It's a tough one. And it could be a really interesting squad.
Of course, 2017, the last time we held a global women's tournament, England emerged winners of the ODI World Cup. What do you think our chances then of doing the same in 2026?
I mean, as I'd say, I'd like to think they're pretty high. We have the advantage that we know the conditions, we know the grounds, we know a lot of the players that we're playing against. And it's a real opportunity. But on the other hand, I raise again the pressure. Will they crumble under it? But I'd really like to think that they can lift that trophy come July.
It's a long way now until the 5th of July, and hopefully we'll do some more podcasts with you before the World Cup. But I'm going to ask you now I'm going to allow you actually that you can change your mind later in the year with this, but as of the 9th of January, can you give me your four semi-finalists and the winners of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2026? Quite an easy one, really.
I think it'd be pretty harsh if you didn't give me a chance to change my mind between now and June, to be fair. I think semi-finals wise, from that Group A, predict it's got to be India versus Australia. If I didn't say that, I think I'd be kidding myself slightly. In Group B, I'd probably say England versus the West Indies. Bit of a bold one, me going for the West Indies, but I'm going to do it anyway. I can change it, as you said. The final, I think, will be India, England. And like that 2017 World Cup one, I think England will lift the trophy.
But that, as I said, is what you thought on the 9th of January. That can have changed by the time we speak again throughout 2026. Although you are on a roll, you can claim both ways now, because you could have changed. It could be an Australia versus New Zealand final when you speak to me again in June.
It really could be. We'll also have to see how England are doing in those warm-up games. we'll reassess there and then.
Well, thank you very much, Rosa, for being part of my first podcast about the ICC Women's T20 World Cup for 2026.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to talk about a World Cup, especially when it's at home.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.